I'm going to next introduce a blank keyframe, insert blank keyframe, at the end of each of these frame spans. And I'm doing that in my actions layer. All my actions want to be contained inside the actions layer. Now it's possible to put your actions anywhere in the timeline, but you really want to stay organized. You'll really not be very happy at some point in the future you find some piece of code doesn't work and you don't know exactly where you put it and can't find it. So the smart thing to do is always keep all of the scripts and actions that you use in one location. Next, I'm going to move the playback head to the first blank keyframe that I'd set up, and what I want to do is cause the playback head to come to the start zone, or if it's in the start zone, that it plays and waits here until I tell it to go anywhere else. To do this, I'm going to use code snippets, which are available in CS5. They are ActionScript 3, but code snippets are not available in CS4. I've already got my code snippets docked into my workspace. If you don't find yours, go to the window pull-down menu and you can find it there. I'm going to bring code snippets forward, and the code snippet that I'm going to use here is pieces of code that will be used to navigate the timeline. Go ahead and roll this out, and I'm going to ask that the playback head stops at this frame, and you can see right here it says stop at this frame. I'm going to just double click. Okay, when I double click, now the actions dialog shows up, and inside here I see a whole bunch of stuff has been added. Really there's just one function that's been placed here, and you can always distinguish what a function is because it's highlighted in blue and we see the closed parentheses and the semicolon to follow it. This is the simplest function you'll use. It's the first one you use. Preceding this are what's called comments. And a comment always is opened with a slash and a star and closed with a star and a slash. This enables you to put notes right inside the code and a reminder, what is this piece of code for, what's it supposed to do. Now once you've added code into the actions layer here, you're going to see a little A right above the empty O that's on any frame inside the timeline that has a piece of action script. I've gone ahead and placed the stop at the end of the second span, and I've put a stop at the end of the third span. So at some point, if the playback head ever lands in one of these zones, it'll always stop before moving forward unless told otherwise. And the same would happen in this zone, and the same would happen in the third zone. Okay, now to roll my actions dialog up, I'll just double click on the gray bar. And the next thing I need to do is place a code snippet on each of the buttons so that when one clicks on the button, the start button, for instance, will tell the playback head to go to the start label. The lifeguard button will tell the playback head to go to the life label. And the Ole Pool label will tell the playback head to go to the Ole Pool label. The code that's placed on these three buttons has to be placed on frame 1. By doing that, it allows the button to work from the beginning. If we don't place the code until further in the timeline, those buttons will fail to work until the time out here in the future where you might have placed the code occurs. Okay, so I'm moving my playback head to frame 1. I'm going to select my first button, and we're going to go to our code snippets, and we're going to find click, go to frame, and play. So let's double click there. Now this piece of code has been added to my first button. You'll notice that once again we have a set of comments, and inside this comments it instructs us that by default this function has been set up with go to and play frame 5, and we want to replace that with the label we've put up here. Okay, so that label is start and has to be spelled exactly the way it is, and it has to be open with a quote, S-T-A-R-T, and close with a quote. If you've done this properly, it should be green. If you want to see what this code, let's just look at this code briefly. It says if somebody clicks on this button, which is called the start button, let's listen for a mouse event. Click. And if the click, let's follow this function. And what this function is, and it's this elaborate string of text here, it says a mouse event, which is the mouse click, go to, if that occurs, go to and play start. And what that does, by clicking on this button, it sends the playback head over here to the place called start. Let's do this again with the next button. I've selected the button called lifeguard, and we're going to go to code snippets. I'm going to select the code snippet that says go to frame and play. I'm going to double click. It's now added this code here at frame 1. We can read once again what it says in the comment. By the way, you can throw this out and it won't affect your program at all, or you could highlight this and replace it with your favorite song. It won't affect the program. As long as something's between this open and close comment mark, the slash and star and the star and slash, it won't fire inside the program. But when we added this piece of code, once again it says now on the lifeguard button, which is the name of our button, look for or listen for a mouse event, which is click. And when the mouse clicks on this button, then follow this function. And the function that's being called is go to and play frame 5. Okay? We want to replace the 5 again with our label, which is open quotes, L-I-F-E, close quotes. Okay, so that should work. Let's go ahead and close this up. There's one more button to do. Let's select that. We're going to open our code snippets, select go to and play a certain frame. We see the exact same piece of code deposited in here again. Now this time it applies to the OLI button, and it's listening for a mouse click, and when it hears the mouse click it says go to and play 5, and we want to replace the 5 with OLI pool. So open quotes, O-L-E-P-O-O-L, close quotes. This wants to look exactly like that does up there for it to work properly. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this up and see if it works. I'm going to go to Control, Test Movie, Test in Flash Professional, and our file comes up. You notice that it's stopped now. It's not, the playback head is not continually moving and looping through here. If I select Lifeguard, it jumps over to the Lifeguard area. If I select OLI Pool, it jumps to the OLI Pool. If I select Start, we go back to the beginning.